Hey, John. As I mentioned to you on the phone, I'm really looking forward to having some robust discussion. And so I kind of want to call you out on something, brother, and I know you can handle it because I know you love Jesus. Um, the professor probably doesn't agree with me. I don't know if a lot of people agree with me, but servant leadership is not what it's cracked up to be. So I wanted to kind of go over that with you from your post and give you an explanation of where I'm coming from on that in the short couple minutes we have here. You mentioned Matthew, 20, I think 26 through 28, where Jesus talks about servant leadership. He actually isn't talking about servant leadership the way we construct it. Yeah, he ends that pericope with the statement of giving your life as a ransom for many. Now, that concept of giving your life for the ransom for many is not part of Greenleaf's worldview. And it's really important to understand that that's the teleological completion of what Christ is talking about. That is not Greenleaf's perspective. Greenleaf, if you study leadership theory, was an executive for AT&T that in the 60s and late 50s came across some Eastern mystical writings of Hermann Hesse. And in that process, there's this story about a mystical servant who is kind of like a $1 million job boss that kind of hides in the employee lounge. And he inspires everybody by his humility, and then they're held together in this. The guy's name is Leo. Held together by this man's humility and joy. And then he leaves the journey, and the journey falls apart. And the author, who's trying to figure out why did the journey fall apart, this humble guy was leading, but he wasn't leading because he wasn't really the leader. And they find out at the end of the story, the author finds out while he's reflecting on this journey and its failure, was that the humble guy actually was the head of the spiritual order that wanted to help these Westerners find themselves. Very 60s mysticism, idealized humanity. Okay, so if you look at that at all, there's some really strong contrast with Paul's writings. And, the Greenleaf version is based in a vision that, you can find your self-realization through the satisfaction of desire, and that desire is to better humanity, right? Okay, so let's be really careful there when we jump into those waters, because that's not the Pauline version of servant leadership, okay? One can argue with me. But the issue of what we call in theology the kenosis, the self-emptying, is very different here between Greenleaf and Paul the Apostle, or the Apostle John, if you will. And the difference basically has to do with this, is that the process of pursuing servant leadership, according to Greenleaf, is a pursuit for the highest and best, okay? It's a character traits, and Norhaus developed some of these character traits that you work towards, you move towards, and you can use this in Men's Warehouse, and you can use this at Southwest Airlines, and you use servant leadership, and there's hardly anything specifically Christian about that, except to make the workplace a better place, right? And it's basically designed to achieve consumerist ends. It's kind of like when Jesus bumps up to the rich young ruler, right? The rich young ruler's like, "Hey, I'm doing it all, I'm doing it," and then it's like, "But what are you telling me I have to divest of myself?" And Jesus said, "Yeah, you have to divest of yourself." No, we're not going there. We're not going there, and that's where you have this. And I know you're from a Catholic background, so let me say that the Augustinian critique a friend of mine, or not a friend, but a colleague in the trade, if you will, said servant leadership has been born off of pouring Freudian wine into a Kantian wineskin, peppered with a fiction narrative that was then subsumed into the consumeristic paradigm of modern business. Okay? And for Paul, it's really clear that unless you encounter your sin nature, right? Romans 6, 7, and 8, unless you encounter your sin nature and come into the community of the redeemed, there is no life. That's true. And so you have this kind of ennobled sensibility that is actually dangerous in one sense. If it's great business practice. Don't get me wrong in regards to that. But is it actually the nature of the kingdom of God? And Augustine, well encountered with Western culture, said that an attempt to cure the soul by becoming grounded in oneself leads not to a cure, but to a perverse kind of exaltation. And you identify ways for people to achieve their private ends of being a good person, a renowned person, a person that cares for other people, through the sense of an autonomous psyche, is right there at the Garden of Eden, right? There is no good to be had outside of Christ. So I just want to offer that to you. I'd like to continue the dialogue concerning that. I think it's a great idea for business. I really do. I think servant leadership is a good idea for business. But I don't think it's ultimately a biblical construct. It's nice. But it doesn't measure up, and I think we need to call a spade a spade. All right, brother. Thanks a lot. There's a little bit of overtime there. Bye.